I came upon the idea of being a credit hero who changes lives. And it resonated with people. And that's how the movement began. And we really are changing lives. We've changed millions of lives. The things that happened to me with the bank error, those happen to lots of people. 79% of credit reports have errors. So that's most people listening to the show. 8 out of 10 are going to have errors on their credit report. Those errors make the banks a lot of money. It's a system that's designed to hurt people. So people connected with the mission of being a credit hero and changing lives, and it just grew and grew and grew. When we got over a certain size of number of employees, in the beginning, it was just like putting out fires. That was the whole day. But as you get the layers of leadership, suddenly you're not seeing what's going on, and it's telephone game, and every message gets changed and changed. And so that's the frustrating part. I actually miss the days where it just felt like putting out fires, but we could see everything.
Welcome to Business Breakthroughs. I'm your host, Mark Hockridge. My guests today are Daniel Rosen, founder and CEO of Credit Repair Cloud, and Keenan Jones, their vice president of product and innovation. Credit Repair Cloud is a software platform that helps entrepreneurs run and grow their own credit repair businesses and helps consumers improve their credit scores. It's an amazing company with a dual mission that I think you're going to find super interesting. Guys, it's a pleasure to speak with you today.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Really excited, Mark.
Absolutely. I'm excited about this conversation because Credit Repair Cloud's story and the mission are fascinating, and Daniel's path to founding the company is both inspiring and moving. I'm also eager to share the details about how the two of you have developed such a strong working relationship. So Daniel, maybe we could start out by having you share a story of what seems like a 13-year-old kid on the streets of LA who juggled and earned money for food and then to comedy and to acting, and how this ultimately led to your founding of Credit Repair Cloud.
Yeah, so I was a really weird kid. I was really into juggling. I juggled like 8 hours a day. It's all I would do. And I wasn't very good in school, but I was so good at juggling, I became a world champion juggler, which came in handy because at 13 I left home and I made a living juggling on the street corners of Los Angeles. And then I learned if I was funny, then people would put more money in my hat. So that kind of led into a career in comedy. But I kept juggling. I was in the Ice Capades. I was on Broadway in a show called Sugar Babies. I did all kinds of crazy shows all over the world. My let's see, I ended up doing the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson several times.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then he got mad at me because I got a show opposite him. And it really looked like I had a career. But in reality, it looked like I was doing big things, but I was actually broke most of the time living on credit cards. And my last long-time gig, I was the announcer of The Price is Right. I was the guy who says, "Come on down."
No kidding, really?
Yeah. And that was my longest running gig and enabled me to finally buy a house. And I felt so proud that I'd really achieved this big life goal of owning a house. It was amazing. I'd really achieved something. And then one day a bank error ruined my credit overnight, and I nearly lost my house, and I nearly went bankrupt. I nearly lost everything. And that's when we were on a hiatus, so I had no checks coming in, and I was too broke to hire a credit repair company, so I started studying about how credit repair really works. And I started doing it. I started writing letters to the credit bureaus, and what happened was it was a bank error had messed up my credit, and I had two loans on my house, a big loan and a little loan, and they posted them both at the same amount, which sent up red flags everywhere, making it look like I was hundreds of thousands of dollars over a revolving line of credit. So that made all my other credit card bills go up, and I couldn't afford the bigger bills, so it was terrible. So I started learning about credit repair, and I'm sending all these letters, and I'm realizing, hey, this is really repetitive work. I bet there's software for this. And I started looking around, and there wasn't any. So I thought, aha, I'm going to, I'm going to create the world's first credit repair software. This is my way to get out of show business. But I had no idea how creating software worked or even anything about business. I didn't even graduate high school, but I was just obsessed over this. So I couldn't figure out how to build it. So I kept drawing it over and over and over again like a crazy person. And then by the time I tried to learn different programming languages, but I didn't get too far. And then by the time I realized, oh, I need to hire somebody to help me, it came in handy that I'd drawn the program, all the pages of it, over and over again. I didn't realize that was an important step. It was creating wireframes, but I didn't know what that was. So I created this. Let me grab this. I created this download that I would sell for $20, where here I was the credit doctor in the doctor's suit, and I would sell it for $20, and it did what it was supposed to do, and people loved it, but I didn't sell very many of them. In a good week, I could make.
Where were you selling these?
I was selling it online. Eventually, I was selling it in a store called Fry's.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but Fry's never paid me. It was a disaster. But during that, I realized, well, during that, what an interesting thing happened. Not many people bought it, but I started hearing from mortgage brokers and realtors and even credit repair companies wanting a bigger version to help their clients. And that's when I realized, oh, I'm doing this wrong. It should be for businesses. It should be a subscription. It should be hosted online. They weren't saying the cloud yet back then. This was close to 20 years ago. So I sat in a room for about 5 years. And well, first I tried to get investors and they all said no. So I thought, screw it, I'm not going to leave this room. So I sat in a room for about 5 years and figured it out and eventually launched Credit Repair Cloud.
That's such an
And
amazing pivot, I mean, because it just seems intuitive that you would take it directly to the consumer that has the credit damage and the need to improve it.
yeah, but they're too lazy to do the work themselves for the most part.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But a lot of people, they do use it to fix their own credit and then they get inspired to start a business. So that's been a good part of our customer base. But anyway, so I was selling it online. I finally had the online software and I'm working round the clock trying to make this thing happen. And I have little pictures on the website of all the people I'm trying to pretending that I am. I'm Phil on sales. I'm Tammy on support. And I was not good at any of those roles. And right around that time, that's when I met Keenan. Keenan had this, I had a problem. I had just bought my first Mac and I had a problem with it. And Google had just launched this thing called Google Helpouts, where they would connect you with someone if you needed help with something. And so he had this ad that it was $4.95 for 15 minutes. And he looked like he was about 12. He was in high school. And he solved my problem in less than a minute. And then I said, hey, I paid you $4.95 for 15 minutes. We got 14 minutes left. So I want to talk about my company because I want you to work for me. And he said, yes. And that's when Keenan became employee number one.
Fantastic. And Keenan, you literally were in high school at this point?
Yeah, I was, and started doing support for the company, and then I kept giving Daniel advice, and then figured out really being a startup, what needs to be done, what's the most important thing for the company. And it was a lot of marketing and a lot of product, and so just started giving suggestions on all those areas, and we kept building, and now we are where we are here today.
That's awesome. I want to come back to this because I think your dynamic between the two of you and how you work together and all of that is something I really want to dig into. I think there's going to be a lot of value in that. Let me loop back though. I've heard you speak about this a little bit, Daniel. I mean, you've built a company around a really clear mission to both help people that want to become entrepreneurs and have their own business for the sake of providing credit repair services, but also, these often underserved people that need the credit repair help. And you're doing that to help their lives, right? And so I've heard you talk about this as this has not been us building a company, but rather building a movement. Tell me a little bit more about that and how you landed on that and how that's continued to be such a key component of the business.
How did I land on that? I think I landed on that when we were first putting together our very first live event. And I came upon the idea of being a credit hero who changes lives. And it resonated with people. And that's how the movement began. And we really are changing lives. We've changed millions of lives. Because the things that happened to me with the bank error, those happen to lots of people. 79% of credit reports have errors. So that's most people listening to the show. 8 out of 10 are going to have errors on their credit report.
An incredibly high number. I can't believe that.
And those errors make the banks a lot of money. It's a system that's designed to hurt people. So people connected with the mission of being a credit hero and changing lives, and it just grew and grew and grew.
That's fantastic. And I love companies that have such a strong why, because it just allows the employees to just really rally around that and maybe work in a much different way, certainly more intentional way than just having some arbitrary revenue goal or customer goal.
Yeah. And it makes it a lot more.
So this point when you kind of bumped into Keenan, were you already at this point realizing just that you needed somebody along with you on this journey beyond just the ability to code it? I mean,
Definitely. It was, Keenan and I are complete opposites. So I'm visionary. He's very organized. He's visionary too, but he just brought a whole different sense to what we were doing. And in the beginning, I kept thinking, why is this kid giving me advice? But then when I started following the advice, we started to grow a lot faster and make more money.
Yeah, I know in the early years, we had some business mentors at different times. You take all these different personality tests and take, like, what are your uniquely extra good at in your, innately in your personality. And I think Daniel had, like, there's this test called DISC, and Daniel's was focused on, like, being a driver and that kind of visionary side, and mine was more organization, processes, and like one of our mentors at the time was like saying, well, that's the perfect combo because you guys balance each other out. One person's driving forward while the other one is figuring out the detail of how to do the thing, and that's why there's like a yin yang combo to it, because we both complement each other perfectly in that way.
Yeah, I think it's a really strong piece of guidance and recommendation. I know there's a Cameron Harold who has a COO Alliance and has written the book Second in Command, and he's a big proponent of that yin and yang and trying to very purposefully, as a founder at least, try to identify a second command candidate that is opposite of you, that complements you really well. That's really cool that you just kind of found each other that way, and it happened.
Yeah.
So Keenan, when you came in, what did you do to earn Daniel's trust and kind of create the space for you to try things and contribute and to execute?
Yeah, well, I would say I've always been an entrepreneur through my life, so I've basically been an entrepreneur in the company, and so it's. I'll just talk a little bit about my background and get back to your question. But before meeting Daniel, I mean, I was in high school building people's websites or doing IT support, like driving to people's homes and setting up their computers and printers, and the kid that set up a lemonade stand when I was a kid, but it had a website and business cards and upsells. And so
Did that come from a family background? I mean, or did you just always have that spirit?
My dad was definitely always very into business, so I think I got some influence there, but also just been very curious always, like how the world works, and I think that curiosity brings the thought of like how can we solve a problem for people. So, so how I built trust with Daniel, I think it was primarily just starting to suggest things. When I got into the business, I was starting to do support, but it came in like, how do we make this more efficient? I think we had a lot of customers that were asking us for phone support or to have live support. So I set up a calendar system that people could book time with me. And so it was just like little projects over time that snowballed. And I think eventually I'd always been into tech, and I read blogs on product management, and then eventually it kind of, we have all these ideas that we're seeing in the support queue on XYZ, you start to see enough insights from users as to what we should build next, and I started suggesting those, and we started building them together. But
that's great.
Daniel, if you remember anything else specific, but
sure,
that's how
Keenan
I remember.
also ran all the marketing for a long time.
Oh wow,
yeah,
a lot of responsibility for a young kid.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And Daniel, I mean, just based on what I know about you, you seem one to extend a lot of latitude to allow people to go run. Bringing Keenan in, I mean, it sounds like you had an immediate connection, but for you, was there a process by which you had to kind of evaluate his abilities, or were you just willing to kind of give things up readily?
Oh, I was willing, because everything he'd suggest and we'd try, it would work. And when terrible things happened, he saved us. So there was a lot of that.
Yeah, well, that'll build trust right there for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's great. I'm curious how the two of you guys stay in sync and aligned with one another now. I mean, as you've been going through, it's one thing when you're just two guys, but as the business has grown and Keenan's kind of isolated more and more responsibility in certain areas, and you and yours, is there like a management structure, a meeting cadence that you use? How do you maintain alignment?
Yeah, we have a sync meeting every day. Do you want to talk about that, Keenan?
Sure. Well, I think when you're a small startup and company, it was really me and Daniel that, I mean, as Daniel described, I was employee number one. So between me, an outsourced dev team at the time when I joined, and myself, that was like the team. So to align, I mean, you're at that point, you're just jumping on calls, talking, and it's really easy to align when you're a really small team. There's not much to manage at that point. But over time, you have to get more intentional as to how you sync. So now as a company, like Daniel and I, we meet every morning. We have like a 15-minute call that we just, whatever's top of mind, we'll talk through it. If we're working through a project, we'll review it and work through it. If we might sync ad hoc for other projects down the line, but we have that time every morning. But as a company, as you get bigger, it's not just the two of Daniel and I. We got about 80, 90 other people that are in between full-time contractors, other stuff. So we've learned from business mentors over time on how to keep everyone in sync. It's a combination of daily huddles with the whole team, weekly syncs with leadership team, monthly calls to sync leadership team on the strategy, quarterlies and yearlies. That's kind of the cadence we have to build up to. It's not just important for us to stay in sync, but we have a much larger team now to stay in sync.
Yeah. I'm curious, are you using Entrepreneurial Operating System or using SaaS Academy's framework?
It's kind of
hybrid.
a hybrid of different things at this point. We initially learned a lot of things from this guy named Alex Sharfin that teaches a lot of businesses, and he runs this company called Simple Operations, and that's where we learned a lot of the basics of running meetings, hiring, firing, managing the team, all this company operation stuff. And we've learned some stuff from other mentors over time, Dan Martell being one, and I think we kind of have our own flavor of different parts of the company.
Right. Interesting. How in your daily syncs that you have, how structured are those, or how just kind of abstract are they?
They're all over the place. Sometimes I just rant. Uh, Sometimes we've got an agenda. That's the weird part. When we got over a certain size of number of employees, in the beginning, it was just like putting out fires. That was the whole day, putting out fires, but we could see everything going on. And then as you get the layers of leadership, suddenly you're not seeing what's going on, and it's telephone game, and every message gets changed and changed. And so that's the frustrating part. I actually miss the days where it just felt like putting out fires, but we could see everything.
Right.
Yeah.
A little easier in some regard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And my partner and I use the EOS framework, and we kind of go by that same page meeting, which is fairly structured. I mean, but it starts with just kind of us getting in tune with one another, what's happening personally or maybe even professionally, but just as a way to kind of segue from working in the business to on the business, for that moment or that hour that we have together. But I found that having that recurring meeting has been really good in establishing trust and making sure that we understand what the other one is thinking, even without it being said, right? That just takes a lot of repetition, a lot of interactions to get there.
Definitely. It's been that way for us as well. In fact, after we have our sync meeting, we have a second sync meeting where Tanmay, our CTO, joins us. So by doing this, the three of us are really, really in sync every day. We all know what each other are thinking and where we're all going. I wish we had a better handle on the rest of the team.
Just out of curiosity, where do you think you don't have it handled? I mean, I'm assuming, as Keenan mentioned, the team has their weekly huddles and so forth. Does it just feel like it's not being trickled up, or?
What do you think, Keenan?
Say it's just, you do have to be very intentional with making systems that make it really easy for everyone to stay in sync. It's I would just say in general, like in business, just to give some anecdotes, like it's the business will get complex over time unless you make it simple. So even just like little things, like as the team grows, people will start creating more Slack groups, and there might be Slack groups you're not part of and Slack groups that you are part of, or sub teams might create private ones or public ones, and it just it creates all these side conversations. So I know with those weekly calls we have with the leadership team, it really does help at least understand what is happening everywhere in the company, but you do have to ask yourself constantly, how do we make this simpler? How do we keep everyone on the same page? Because it will, disorder will naturally occur over time unless you don't weed it and watch it.
That is a great takeaway. I love that you threw that out. I mean, yeah, it is a constant battle, and the goal should be simplification, because you're right, it'll just spiral out. Interesting.
Yeah,
how are the two of you navigating disagreements and conflicts? I mean, I'm assuming that probably comes up in these daily syncs or maybe in other situations, but how do you work through those?
Well, I'd say for my
conflicts. Do we?
We definitely disagree on things, Daniel.
Okay.
we but I think there's a lot of trust built between us, so it's a it's not, it doesn't create like huge conflicts per se, but it would just, we can disagree on things and work through it. The one framework I like to do is if I feel really strongly on something, I'll say that or ask the other person if they feel really strongly on something. And so if we're talking through something like, oh, this logo should go this way or that way, and I don't feel super strongly, but I kind of feel like, oh, we should maybe change this, but the other person feels really strongly about the change, then it'll default to that. And that helps get through things because I feel like we already have a level of trust, but sometimes knowing how strongly someone views their domain, then that's helpful to get through disagreements. And then, I mean, as you build a company too, I think you do have to have job roles that clearly define what you're responsible for. So, I mean, just for example, like I lead a lot of product here, but Daniel's takes all the legal stuff on the company. So like usually one of us defaults on any of those type of decisions, and if something comes up in one of those domains, so it's to the basics of business. You have a job role, you have roles and responsibilities that each person takes on, and you really need to sit down and think who takes on what.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I mean, I think that's a great point. I mean, how do the two of you go about delineating those responsibilities and ownership? I mean, I think Daniel, as the founder and owner, it's often natural to want to have fingerprints on most everything and have opinions certainly about those things. How have you done that? I mean, do you do it very formally and document those responsibilities and ownership? And then I think kind of going back to maybe that yin and yang, I mean, is one of you clearly the visionary while, Keenan is more the integrator?
I think Keenan's equally a visionary. I don't know. I went through the part of the business where I had to hand off everything, and that was really, really painful at first. But now I've delegated every single thing that I used to do. So I don't really, all I care about is the big vision and the movement.
Was that a difficult process for you to give it up, or did you feel liberated by being able to give it up?
Oh, it was horrible. It was so horrible and painful. And then I would come into work and I didn't know what to do. And I'd play on Facebook so that Keenan would think I was doing something.
I love that transparency.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And
Yeah.
then I started getting comfortable with it, and I realized, oh, this is now opening me up for doing bigger things and being the face of the company, and or taking on other things, having the freedom, because prior to that I was doing everything. I just hiring people, I didn't step away from all the different roles. So I was in everybody's business.
Right.
But going through that part of handing everything off, it was really, really freeing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think every stage, well, I mean, there's no distinct stages, but each kind of next evolutionary stage kind of requires you as a founder, and you, Keenan, too, to reinvent yourself, right? I mean, you're now getting more leadership beneath you, and that requires a change. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Daniel, maybe the time that you spent to kind of, playing in Facebook, I mean, sets you up for all of the, being the face of the company and doing so much content work, which you're doing now, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So now I have the time. I want to double down on that and really go all in.
Yeah. Keenan, your role has continued to expand. What's the purview of your responsibilities at this point?
It's changed a lot over time. Right now it's primarily product and getting the best product out there and iterating our product to be the very best it can be. But over time I've pretty much been in every department. I guess besides actually coding, or but I've been in every department. But you're right that the role does change over time. You have to grow and evolve. Like a couple months ago, um, I was overseeing success and marketing, and now and over time we've just like now we're focusing more on product, and now I've jumped into focusing on product, and we have other leaders in the company helping with those other departments. So uh, it's always changing
How
what
did
the
you go
role
about
needs.
that recalibration for yourself? I mean, to owning a bunch of things, saying, okay, I'm just going to focus on product, and I'm assuming with that was probably a knowing you also a recalibration of what are my objectives and measures. I mean, how did you tackle that?
Say it's still a continuing learning process, but the uh, one of our mentors, that maybe your audience knows, but Dan Martell, like his book "Buy Back Your Time," it has a really good exercise on what is what is it that you need to get done, and create like a perfect week for that. So I like re-looked at my calendar and I was like, how do I need to map my week so that I could focus more on product and less in these other areas? And so I built my perfect week, which just meant pulling out a Google Calendar and scheduling the recurring meetings that needed to happen with the product team, with other teams, personal review times. You put in like the ideal time blocking as to what you do on a week by week basis, and uh, that helped me.
No, that's good. I went through the same exercise, and to me, it feels like a constant battle to try to conform to it because naturally things creep in, or I creep outward. Just there's that natural tendency to want to be involved in many things. But yeah, I think that's a really good framework. Love to see more people adopt that, and try within my own team to get people to utilize that. That's cool. So what's next for Credit Repair Cloud? What are we chasing now?
Yeah, we got a lot of really exciting things. Our our big vision going forward is to make the platform more of an all-in-one tool. Uh, there's some big initiatives that we're doing to make that happen because right, if you buy a software, sometimes you still got to duct tape a bunch of things together. You got to get a marketing system here, a billing system there, another system to add on top of it, and it's you buy one system, but really your customer to be successful has to buy 10 other softwares to go with it. So a couple of the things we're focusing on now are billing, including billing in the platform to make that easy so they can bill their customers. And then another thing is marketing automation so that they can do that all in-house in our software. And the next big thing after all this too is a build out of a marketplace where we're going to be helping our customers get their customers. And so just imagine someday if you're looking for credit repair, like Mark, if you're looking for credit repair, we have thousands of companies we work with, but we have no way of telling you who to get paired with. So our goal is to make it so we can become a marketplace of companies to get paired with, where we could say, oh, go to this website and we'll tell you the perfect company to work with.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think to this point, you have thousands of businesses, credit repair businesses you're supporting, and then I also noticed, that you have a millionaire wall of entrepreneurs that you've helped to reach the $1 million mark, which is, I think, spectacular. Love that idea.
250 people.
That's amazing.
At our
That's great.
events, we have this ceremony, kind of like the Academy Awards of Credit, where we give them these big plaques. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you do your best prices right and do a come on down. I love it. So
Down.
that's really cool. I want to circle this all the way back, and this last question for you, which is going back to your mission and your intention as a business to help people. You have selected a local charity, the Chrysalis Center, as a focal point for your giving. And I was wondering if we could take some time and have you tell us a bit more about their work and how you're supporting them.
We raised money at our last event, and our credit heroes. It's interesting. A lot of our credit heroes. I've been homeless, and so have many of our credit heroes, and so it really feels organic that we have partnered up with this charity, and they really help homeless people into jobs. It's really, really important. People end up homeless because of credit issues very often. And so we went down to their center to give them this big check, and we got a tour of the place, and it was pretty amazing. They're in Skid Row in downtown LA, and they help them put together resumes, and they give them job training. They have partnerships with the city where there may be jobs with the city. It's pretty incredible. And every time they get a job, every time someone comes in and they've gotten a job, they ring this bell. It's really amazing. So it feels really good to be a part of that and to be helping people to get jobs that are so needed.
I think it's great. I wanted to bring it up because I came across that, and I was very moved by the gesture and the work that your team put in to raise the money and to engage with them and support them in that way. And I think it's really special. And then going back to kind of, and we talked about that sort of thing, this feels like, as an employee or a team member or even your clients, how can you not get fired up and on that bandwagon, right?
Sure. And it really is the mission about changing lives, from our customers to inside our team. Even our coders in India, we made them shirts that say, "The code I write changes lives." And they're really proud of them. It's amazing. It feels good. It's a lot of fun. And it feels good to be, what is the word I'm looking for? It feels good to be doing more than just trying to make money. We're really making change in the world.
No, that's very, very powerful and very special. And yeah, you two both are very special people. I've really enjoyed getting to know the two of you, not just today, but in our prayer work, and admire what you've created. And congratulations on everything you've done. And I am going to be a fan watching you from the outside as you take it to the next level. How can people find you and follow your journey?
Oh, they can follow us on, they can just go to creditrepaircloud.com, and everything is there.
Fantastic. And I would also recommend people check out your YouTube channel. Daniel's on there all the time and putting out great content. And if you need help on the product side or operational stuff, maybe tap Keenan for some help there. Guys, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.